It takes courage to create. And I think in our modern culture of consumer culture, we need more creatives. We need more people to step up, doers, activators, and those are the kind of people you're going to hear from tonight. We also had an amazing group last night as well. And this is the Inspiring Wellness Speaker Series that started a number of months ago with a few of us, staff, entrepreneurs, instructors, to step up and create, to be able to share our thoughts, articulate our thoughts. And it first started with a social media challenge to post a video every day of our own choice. And then a few weeks later, this idea of this evening came about and was presented to create a 12-minute talk, like a mini TEDx kind of a style speech. And there were many times, I think just about everyone questioned, why am I doing this again? Because it was tough, right? 12 minutes is a very narrow amount of time to be able to formulate your thoughts, bring them together in a very coherent way, and to be able to articulate them in an inspiring way. So you're going to hear from 6 different individuals who are creators, who are doers, who are showing up to share their thoughts, their ideas. And for you, it's about listening and supporting and taking anything that lands as inspiration to integrate into your life afterwards. And without further ado, I'm looking forward to it. So thank you for being here. We're having it recorded as well. We'll send out the recording afterwards. And let me introduce our first speaker. We all know that aging is a given. Anybody doubting that one, or still challenging that? Like, I'm going to live forever. However, becoming frail is not a given. There's a definite process for aging with vigor and vitality. It takes focus and intention and is not on most people's radar. However, once you master it, you'll be well on your way to not only feeling better today, but thriving tomorrow and beyond. The process you'll learn today helped our speaker, Ramona Remesat, regain her health and vitality after suffering from small intestinal bacteria overgrowth, also known as SIBO. Not only did she beat SIBO, but she remained SIBO-free for over 3 years, despite having an autoimmune form of the disease, which typically causes chronic relapse. So please join me in welcoming herbalist and former SIBO patient, Ramona Remesat.
It's important to get that former in.
Former, yes.
Hello, everybody. You know what? It takes guts to get up and speak in front of a room full of people, and it takes guts to speak about things they might not want to hear. And that's that it takes guts, or more specifically, healthy guts, to live life with vigor and vitality, especially as you get older. And in the next 12 minutes, I'm going to share the exact steps that I took to regain my own gut health after a lengthy battle with SIBO. And when you leave tonight, you'll be able to use them as well to not only experience better mood and metabolism, but to avoid many of the chronic diseases of aging and feel better than ever. These days, we are living longer than ever before, but we're doing it with a significantly decreased health span, right? Nursing homes are full of residents who are frail, they're cognitively impaired, they're suffering from multiple chronic diseases. And I'll bet that you might have a parent or other family member who's currently facing this reality today. And I'll also bet that you certainly don't want to find yourself in their shoes someday. Am I right? I have a saying, aging is a given, becoming frail is not. And it all starts with growing the garden in your gut. So what the heck is a gut microbiome anyways? It is all of the microbes that live in your digestive tract, and they're things like bacteria and virus and fungi, and you can think of it like a garden. I brought this lovely visual aid. And what do you think is the number one thing that makes a garden flourish? You can go ahead and yell it out.
Soil.
Anybody else?
Water.
Come on. Okay, those are all really good answers. And you almost all got it right. One person did. The thing that makes a garden flourish isn't what most people think, but a healthy garden is one that is an ecosystem that is made up of many varieties of microbes. And so what we want in there is to have a high number of the beneficial microbes, a low number of the pathogenic microbes, and an appropriate amount of the opportunistic microbes. Because what happens when you don't have enough good guys, the bad guys take over and the opportunists join in, and before you know it, your beautiful garden is full of weeds. And we call this dysbiosis, and that's where I found myself in March of 2018. I was sitting in the chair at my naturopath's office explaining all of the symptoms that I'd been having, and I was saying, I don't know what is going on, but within 90 minutes of eating anything, I am so bloated. I look 6 months pregnant. My abdomen is rock hard. It's painful. And I'm either running to the bathroom or nothing is going on. And she looked right at me and she's like, I think you have SIBO. I was like, SIBO? What the heck is that? I'd never heard of that before. And she's like, well, it stands for small intestine bacterial overgrowth. And it's when you have too much bacteria in your small intestine where it shouldn't be. So I'm like, immediately, well, how do I get rid of this? And she's like, well, you know, there's some options. And then she kind of got really serious. And I was like, uh-oh. And she's like, it's not going to be an easy fix. Getting rid of SIBO can take a year or longer. So I prepared myself. I'm like, okay. And do you want to know how long it actually took? 5 years. 5 years from my diagnosis until I started to feel really, really good again, which was 5 years of basically feeling traumatized every time I needed to eat, 5 years of not being able to eat what I wanted, when I wanted, or how much of something I wanted, 5 years of basically becoming a social recluse because it was just too difficult for me emotionally to be around other people who could eat and drink what they wanted. And in that 5 years, I learned that you don't know what you've got until it's gone. And you really don't appreciate your gut health until you lose it. But let's face it, gut health is not sexy, right? It's not even remotely interesting to most people. Maybe not me, but most people. I mean, okay, so when was the last time you woke up and the first thing that came to mind in the morning was, what am I gonna do for my gut health today? Probably never, right? So today is the day that we're gonna change that, and here's how we're gonna get started. Good gut health does not happen by accident. You need to be intentional about it. It's just like fitness. Fitness doesn't happen by accident either. We wished it did, but you need to put in the effort. So the first step to feeling good and to aging with vigor and vitality is to prevent dysbiosis. We want to keep those microbes in balance and not let the bad guys take over. So how do you do that? Well, if we're looking at the gut like a garden, you would never spray weed killer all over your garden, right? But in our modern world, we have 3 things that act like weed killer. We have certain medications, we have environmental chemicals, and we have food additives. So in terms of the medications, obviously antibiotics, right? Just taking 1 round of antibiotics can wipe out a complete species of bacteria. And I'm gonna bust a big myth right now, and that's that you cannot reseed your gut by taking a probiotic. When a species is gone, it is gone for good. And the only way you can bring it back is through a fecal microbiota transplant, which is where they take poop from a donor, put it in a pill, and you take it, or through breast milk. So if neither of those sound very appetizing, then you're definitely gonna wanna protect the species that you already have. Now, granted, there are times antibiotic might be necessary, so speak to your doctor, ask if there's something maybe less broad spectrum that you can take, look at herbal options, right? But really, really weigh those pros and cons. Another medication that is dangerous to our guts are proton pump inhibitors, or PPIs. And these are acid-blocking medications, commonly given for things like acid reflux and heartburn. And in Canada, 1/3 of all prescriptions written are for PPIs. And what most people don't know is when they are taken long-term, like they usually are, they act just like an antibiotic. And in one study, they gave PPIs to children. 56% of them developed SIBO after just 12 weeks, which is really, really sad. But it is not just the the pharmaceutical medications we need to think about, it's also natural products. So for example, the herb berberine, it's called nature's Ozempic, and it is very helpful for metabolism, but it should never be taken long term. It is really a powerful antimicrobial and does kill off beneficial species in the gut. So yeah, consider that. And then we have, where are we here? We also have to consider, sorry guys, I got so excited about that. There's citrus seed extract and grapefruit seed extract, which considered natural products, but are so potent. Like they're super potent that they're actually stronger than clindamycin, which is the strongest antibiotic that has the biggest impacts to the gut. So then we have the world we live in, environmental chemicals, right? We have glyphosate and pesticides in food. We have triclosan and phthalates in scented products and personal care products. There's bisphenol A, which is in food and beverage containers, dental sealants. It's the coating on paper receipts. And then there's the lovely food additives, things like artificial sweeteners and food emulsifiers. So you're going to want to get really, really good at reading food labels and avoiding things like sucralose and aspartame and saccharin, and especially the sugar alcohols. So sorbitol, erythritol, xylitol. And in terms of those food emulsifiers, run away from carbomethylcellulose and polysorbate 80. So quick recap, we are not going to spray a weed killer on the garden in our gut. But that's not all we need to do to ensure a healthy gut. If we really want it to thrive, we need to feed it. We want to feed the garden in your gut. So that is step 2. And sorry again, the healthiest people in the world with the best guts have hundreds and hundreds of species of bacteria in their gut. Do you guys want to know how many the average Westerner has? 160, if we're lucky. And each microbe eats a specific thing. So if we want to have lots of different microbes, we need to eat lots of different things. So if you don't eat certain foods, or you are cutting out entire, food groups, you could be killing off keystone beneficial species in your gut. And like I said, once they're gone for good. So eating a wide range of colorful plant-based foods each and every week is the way to ensure a healthy gut. And so you're going to aim to eat more fruits, veg, nuts, seeds, whole grains. These are things like quinoa and buckwheat and farro, right? And of course, your lentils, beans, peas, lentils, all of that. And I'm going to give you a challenge to make it fun. Okay, you ready? Okay, your goal is going to be to eat 30 different plant-based foods each and every week. Okay? And once you eat something once in a week, you can't recount it. So you can do what we do in my family. We make it a contest. Because then you start getting really, really intentional with your diet, and you're not eating on autopilot anymore. But I know, okay, groceries are expensive. 30 plant foods is a lot. So honestly, do the best that you can, right? Do the best that you can. The idea is now that you're thinking about what you are eating and not just getting the same thing week after week after week. Remember, a healthy gut is a diverse gut. So you can try to each week eat something you've never eaten or that you rarely eat, right? Or maybe start looking at recipes from other cuisines that have ingredients that you don't normally eat. You can eat with the seasons. Another really good way to add more beneficial species into your gut is to swap out the varieties. So if you're always eating gala apples, try a Granny Smith, try a Yellow Delicious, right? If you're always, for citrus eating mandarins and clementines, try blood orange, right? The same thing goes for veggies. There's so many kinds of peppers, so many kinds of potatoes, different kinds of onions. And why do we want to do that? Because a healthy gut is a diverse gut. And same thing goes with grains. If you find you're constantly eating white rice and brown rice, well, hey, swap that out. Try red rice, try black rice. Again, try some of those other weird grains that are out there, right? And think about adding more nuts and seeds. Right? You can sprinkle those on your yogurt in the morning or on porridge or whatever. I think you guys are getting the idea. But the whole reason I'm belaboring this point is because a healthy gut is a
Diverse gut.
You guys are getting it. Yay. Okay, so let's wrap it up. If you want to age well with vigor and vitality today and tomorrow, the two things you need to start doing right now are stop spraying weed killer on the garden in your gut and feed your garden. You're going to be extremely careful with medications, even natural products, right? Try to eat organic as much as you can. You're going to choose healthier personal care products and really read labels and avoid chemicals that disrupt the gut. And of course, be intentional with your diet. Really try to hit that 30 different plant-based foods each and every week. So, do you think you can do it?
Yeah.
More importantly, do you want to do it?
Yes.
Because it can be very hard to make lifestyle changes when you're feeling good, or to think about the consequences of not making those changes. But I'll remind you, you don't know what you've got until it's gone. And if you don't have your gut health, you don't have anything, truly. So now that you know how to age well with vigor and vitality, share it with your family and share it with your friends and get them in on the 30 different plant-based foods every week challenge. And if you want to know more about how to have a healthy gut, you can follow me on Instagram. I'm at healing.path.herbals. I've got some cards over there. And I just want to thank you guys all for your time tonight and to let you know you've got this. All right. Everybody settling in? Our next presenter is a medical herbalist whose path is guided by a deep and intuitive connection with the plant world. Holly brings a unique approach to healing, one that goes beyond simply treating symptoms and instead fosters wellness rooted in harmony with nature. With formal training from Hartwood Education in the UK and mentorships with herbalists across the UK and North America, she blends ancestral plant wisdom with modern science. Please welcome Holly Jones, founder of Elder Song Herbs, as she shares the profound lessons we can learn from the wisdom of plants.
So join me around a fire. Feel the warmth on your face. Feel that safety that fire provides. And invite in your ancestors. And not just your grandparents and your grandparents' grandparents, although they're very welcome too, but your earth-loving ancestors, your earth-worshiping ancestors, the ones whose lives revolved around the seasons, the stars, the water. These are people who lived in deep kinship with plants, animals, and fungi. And have you ever asked them or yourself, how did they do it? Because life's really hard. And they had so many things going on. And they didn't learn in textbooks or educational institutions how to not only survive but thrive. They learned from listening to their human and non-human kin. And we face very different challenges today, ones that separate us from our intuition and our capacity to connect with others. So I think our ancestors would be quite overwhelmed with the information, the stream of information we have to live under, much of which is a little bit heartbreaking and disappointing and fear-inducing and just overwhelming. So when you feel overwhelmed by life and you feel like the easiest way to cope is to disconnect, turn to the ones who know what it means to be a thriving human being. Plants. So I'm Holly Jones. As Ramona said, I'm a medical herbalist. And my work in this world is to sustain that sacred relationship between humans and plants. We evolve together. We know who each other are, and we can help each other. So in my practice, I serve as a medium between plants and people. I take the time to get to know a person very, very well, not just through their words, but through their energy, through their tone, through how they move. And I also have to get to know the plants just as deeply, if not more. And this isn't just academic, although I've done that too. But this is a different kind of listening, and it's intuitive, it's ancestral, and it's embodied. So I think one of the messages that plants can teach us is they awaken this ability within us. So today, I want to talk about the tools to get to know the plants around you and the plants of your ancestry, like really, really well. And not just their virtues or like how they act in our bodies, but their lessons and their teachings. Because there's so much more to plants than just like, can you help me with this problem? So we're gonna do this through listening in an open-hearted way, listening to our stories, like interpreting the stories of previous generations, and including plants in our daily rituals. How can we work them into our life again? So first, I want to tell you a story about a tree that taught me a truth I really needed to hear. So when you talk to a herbalist, they'll probably tell you about how plants speak to them and stuff, and how I've always spoke to them since they were like a tiny infant. For me, that didn't happen until probably in my early to mid-20s. I don't know if anyone is familiar with the quarter-life crisis phenomenon. It doesn't get talked about often enough, but when you think you have things figured out, and then it's just like, crash and burn. So I was in like an emotionally tender place when I came to an old cedar tree. I had moved to a new city recently, so I was a bit lonely, and I lost a job or two at once, and I was, battling health problems that even in my mid-20s I've been struggling with for like over a decade. So I came to this tree in this beautiful old-growth forest on Vancouver Island, and I was just ready to like dump my trauma all over the soil and be comforted in my victimhood. But who I met that day was more like an elder who was sick and tired of hearing the same story over and over again, and nothing new happening. So this is like a 1,600-year-old cedar tree. So that's like born in 400 Common Era old. It has seen countless lives come and go. And I'm sure I'm not the first person to come be like, woe is me. So I sat beneath that tree, and I got a very clear message. And it was, yes, this is a hard time. Of course it hurts, so change it. And that's something I needed to hear because I was ready to just be like, poor me, for who knows how long. But I could like see the architecture of my mind shift and change. Kind of like the stairs at Hogwarts, where they'll kind of like move around depending on where you need to go or want to go, or like, I don't know, whatever it feels like doing. But it expanded what I thought I was capable of. And I felt connected for the first time I had in a while, when it was a period of time where I was like, I don't really want to take part in this world that's going on. And so that's the day I would say I became a herbalist. And over the years and months and whatever, I continued to build a relationship with this tree specifically, and just see that cedar is a provider in the forest. New trees grow off its broken branches, and eagles nest in its canopy. It shelters us, it warms us, it's medicine. Its boughs insulate us from the cold earth when we're sleeping. Its bark helps us to start fires in these damp forests. And its wood helps people to cross waters and expand their worlds. So like the First Nations people of the coast carved canoes out of these big cedar trees. And as medicine, it's extremely potent. It helps to remove what is draining us. So think tumors, warts, infections, especially respiratory infections. That's why when you're in a cedar forest or smell a red cedar hydrosol, it's just like, okay, let's go. So it's super antimicrobial, and its branches even kind of look like the bronchioles of your lungs. So once you are enchanted by a plant. It's time to look at the stories. And for me, like, cedar's not my ancestral plant. I love it, but pursuing Western herbal medicine is partially wanting to pursue the plants of my ancestors. So I want to learn about the folklore and the plants used in ceremony and in rites of passage. So when I was studying, I called up my grandma before she passed, and I asked her about the plants that she worked with as a child, because she's from Romania, she's from Transylvania, and she told me about how they picked like linden flowers and chamomile and raspberry leaf, which are all these beautiful, gentle, like joyful plants, perfect for children. But when we think of Transylvania, obviously we think of garlic. Because if you know anything about Transylvanian folklore, this is the land of vampires. So of course, what comes up is like people hanging garlic over their doors to ward off evil spirits. And if you look up any medicinal plant, the magical connotation is always to ward off evil spirits. It's planted outside or hung over the door to ward off these evil spirits. And these are not just like ghouls and demons. We would call these today maybe bacteria, viruses, pathogens, these invisible pathogens causing us illness. So of course they ward off evil spirits. Maybe demons too, who knows? With garlic, think about a cold, weak, pale person, kind of like a vampire victim. But living, they're just they're sick, they're invaded by this evil. And garlic invigorates and moves the blood. It cleans out the lungs, it supports our heart. And it goes through our whole body. It's so powerful and like broad spectrum antimicrobial. It's like quite amazing what it does. And then as far as plants used in ceremony go, I really love talking about rosemary. Because rosemary for remembrance is the old saying. And rosemary was tied into wedding bouquets to anchor us in love during hard times. It was worn by the students of ancient Greece to help them remember. And it was laid on the graves of loved ones who we've lost to anchor us into those memories. And modern science shows that rosemary helps us to remember. And it's been shown to help students perform better on their exams. And when you think about how it grows in its environment, it grows in these harsh, hot, sunny environments in Greece, by the ocean. Its Latin name means the marinus part of rosmarinus is ocean spray. And so it teaches us emotionally that when things are difficult to stand tall and live joyfully. And then one plant that I think really well represents a rite of passage is sphagnum moss. So I've always felt really drawn to moss. And I moved to Vancouver Island because I heard it was really mossy, and I was like, love it. Moss naps, it's gonna be great. And then it was only recently I kind of figured out why I was so drawn to it, I think. And it's because it's part of the most sacred rite of passage. A woman's first bleed is something that maybe we're taught to stifle so that we can keep up with the boys and the structures of our world, and we're taught to control it with chemical contraception so that we can keep up and roll with the punches instead of creating our own structures. But moss is the original maxi pad. It's the thing that facilitated our society, a matriarchal society. When a girl had her first bleed, she would join the women in the moss and learn the matriarchal wisdom and feel safe and talk about their community. And so it's a thing that I think a lot of us lose. I almost feel grief from losing the moss and that part of that rite of passage that we've lost in our society. So, how do we include these in our lives? Plants and fungi and moss are not just tools, they're kin to me. So that ancient cedar, I would never have met it if activists hadn't camped out on that land for literally years, because it's owned by a logging company. And that 1,600-year-old tree could have become someone's shingles. That's what they do with those old cedars. And so plants can't always stand up for themselves. So that's our strength as humans. That's like living in reciprocity. That's having a healthy relationship in your life, which I think we can agree is like improves our well-being. And then let braids of garlic take up space in your home. Not just because it's like cute and folksy, but honor them as like the gatekeepers of your immune system and the foundation of most of your recipes. And the next time you use rosemary, like don't just look for it to it as a steady aid. Like grow it, hang it from your ceiling, infuse it in oil, and not just to like help your hair grow, but like move the stagnant thoughts from your head. Open your mind a little bit. Stand tall with your emotions. And then next time you see a big, beautiful bed of moss, sit in it. Moss facilitates the becoming. So maybe you want to build like a matriarchal company, a structure in which you can thrive. Take a little moss break, have a little nap, create. So this week I invite you to come back around the fire. Bring a plant that you feel drawn to. You don't have to know why. Make a tea, smell it, and as you sip it, ask yourself, are there any images coming up? Any memories, sensations in my body that weren't there before? Because plants help to awaken our ancestral memories. And maybe with their help, we can become a good ancestor too. So, the next time you touch a tree, put your hands in the soil, remember that you're not just touching a plant, you're touching a thread of the vast tapestry of your ancestral wisdom, and it's been waiting for you to listen. Thanks, everyone. Okay. Oh, thanks. Okay, so next up, I would love to welcome Miss Lynn Laroche, a master hypnotherapist, energy healer, an intuitive reader who comes from a long lineage of spiritual practitioners and seers. Her work blends hypnosis, sound therapy, energy healing, and intuitive guidance, including card readings and channeling, just to support deep transformation. So using tools like these beautiful Tibetan singing bowls, tuning forks, and chimes, she works with the body's natural frequencies to restore balance and harmony. Whether through subconscious healing or spiritual insight, her mission is to help people reconnect with their truth and find peace in all aspects of their being. Welcome the lovely Lynn Laroche.
Hello, everyone. Beautiful speaker so far. Yes. Okay, today, what if I tell you that sound could heal you? It could heal you physically, emotionally, and energetically. That sound is so powerful. It's not only something that you hear, but it's something that vibrates right through every single cell. It is powerful, it is ancient, an ancient wisdom, and it's deeply personal. When was the last time, I bet you guys can relate to this, that when you hear a song you haven't heard in a long time, it takes you right back into a situation, a moment in time. You can feel the emotion right through. You might start singing or crying or laughing, you know. You might want to tell the story about it. So for me, when I was a child, and I didn't really grow up with music. We didn't have a radio until I was about 9 or 10 years old. My mom actually bought a little record player, and she had 2 albums, which both were Elvis Presley. So that's what we listened to. None of us spoke English, so we didn't understand any of the words. And for me, as far as I know, I really loved singing, and I wanted to be a singer. And just to give you a little bit of a background, my room was on the 2nd floor. I would have my door closed, and I would just start singing my heart out. And once in a while, I would hear, "Shut up!" You know, or if I was with my mom in a confined place and I would be singing, and she'd be like, wow, you know to murder a song, don't you? In French, of course. You know, to give her credit, she didn't do that to be mean. She just thought it was really funny because everybody could carry a tune in my house, just not me. My poor daughter inherited my voice too. But she didn't care. She just sings her heart out. But until that I was in grade 6, we were rehearsing for doing a show in front of the school with the parents. And we were all in line and singing this song that I loved. And the teacher started to go around and hearing everybody. And then she stopped at me, pulled me forward. She's like, okay. She's like, guess what? You're going to be the actress. You're going to be that little girl in a song. And, you know, you don't need to sing at all. You know? I'm like, okay. You know? But that's when that stuck with me. And then I made a story in my mind that, you know, and from that time on, I just said, I have no musical bone in my body. You know, and that was the story I told myself for many years. So until I got introduced to sound healing, I was in Indonesia, and I was way before all the sound baths that we see now. And I was walking, you know, in Ubud and downtown, and then there was a sign on a window that says sound healing. And I thought, what is that? So I went right in. The practitioner didn't have anybody, so I got a session right there and then. He used bowls that were Tibetan bowl, much like these. And he actually had one small gong. And he just placed the bowls over, you know, on me, and the vibration that went through and all around. And I can't even tell you what actually we did after the session. The rest of the day, I was just in this place, all, you know, all by myself, like to myself in that cocoon. And when I came back home, then I got really interested too. I wanted to know more. I was just starving for all that information. And so I went to a gong sound bath, and the resonant, like that took me right through, took me on a journey. And then that's when I knew I needed to incorporate that in my practice. So I'm a master hypnotherapist, and hypnosis is a natural state of mind. We go there when we're close to meditation or just before we fall asleep. You know, up to 6 years old, we're in that space where we're in our subconscious mind. So adding sound to my practice, I'm trained in about 6 different energy healing modality. I come from a long line of channeler and reader. So just to incorporate that together, I felt like it's just like, wow, that's magical. That's going to work perfectly. And then you can marry conscious, subconscious mind. You know, your mind is more open and relaxed, and you can deal with huge trauma, you know, that you had in your life, you know, with ease and grace. And you can deal with fears, with guilt, all kinds of stuff, right? But for me, what I see the most is I always feel privilege and honor when I'm part of somebody's healing journey. You know, people come to you in their most vulnerable time, and they trust you, you know, and that. And 15 minutes of a deep hypnosis, by the way, or light hypnosis, is like 4 hours of deep sleep, you know. So you always feel so good. Like when I was younger, I wanted to be a psychologist, but I didn't believe, like some of the belief of the system, that it was just like the talk therapy, or that it took a long time to heal, just didn't quite resonate with me. So hypnosis, energy healing, you know, I feel that when you're ready to heal, it doesn't take that long. Right? So when people are done their session and just you see the brightness in their eyes, you see the joy returning to their being, they feel so much better. Life is too short to live our life in pain. You know, life is too short to, you know, tell ourselves old story, just like my story that I had no musical bone in my body. You know, so for me, I don't speak music. I don't know, you know, all the notes and that. But for me, it's the frequency, the resonance that I'm interested in. You know, how does that make us feel? And how that works? Well, the lower tone, much like these bowls are ancient bowls, and so they have been all handmade and carved and all that stuff. So the lower tone really helps you to just slow right down, ground yourself, relax, calm your nervous system. You can actually deal with different herbs, have different intensity and different purpose, of course. And the higher note helps you invigorate. It just helps you. I usually do the bell at the end of a session when I want people to come back to, so they're okay to drive home, they're not too sleepy. And so you can really play with the sound, and it's so gentle but powerful, right? And you just get quick result when you're ready. So that's why I'm really passionate about it. As well, I wanted to just touch base for a little bit, in the past, maybe 4 years ago, there was that big shift, within all of us of what happened. It was through the whole world, and everybody was in fear. Nobody knew what was happening. Everybody was disconnected. We used our phone more to connect. We watched more movies, EMF, that resonance. All of our organs, our cell have their own resonance. And when we're exposed to too much of that, or that massive energy, if everybody's in fear, we feel that. It changes our own resonance. It makes, sometimes we're just we don't notice. We're just oh my God, what's wrong with me? I don't know. I can't find my joy. I woke up today, felt great, and then all of a sudden I feel really low. Our own frequency vibrate through everyone. And we all know that. When somebody come in a room or somebody start talking, right away we make an assumption, I don't know if I vibe with this person, or I like this person, or I want to hear more, or this person makes me feel so good, right? So we all have those experiences. So quite powerful. So I would like for you to actually just experience a little bit of that. I know we don't have that much time. I could talk a little bit more about all of that, but it doesn't take that much to get back into our resonance. So if you will, I would like you guys to either soften your gaze or close your eyes and just take that time to have a nice deep breath. And just breathe in this moment now, just connecting with yourself. Connecting with your chair, being comfortable. And so breathing in all of that calmness and letting go of all the thought. There is nothing that you need to do, but just to listen, just to experience the sound. And just allow your nervous system to calm. Let go of the day. Just be in this moment, right here, right now. And if you will, you can visualize the sound traveling through every cell and every organs of your being. Much like a water or a river traveling through your whole system. Feeling the coolness of the water, the flow. Your whole nervous system has already started to settle down. At this moment, there's only you, the peace within, traveling through your inner self. Feeling a joy returning to every single cell, vibrating a beautiful aliveness, a peace within, just by taking a nice deep breath again. Just bring yourself back into this moment now. The awareness to your chair, to the space. You can open your eyes. Have a nice stretch. And just enjoying that new state of being. So now for yourself, what do you do when you get home and if you don't have all those instruments in those bowls? You know, when you feel actually unbalanced, you feel stressed, anxious, it is easy. You can, as easy as just the sound of a bell, taking you right back into this moment, into this space just for you. It can be a chime. It's that easy to clear the room, to clear yourself of other people's vibrations at time too, you know? This little one here speaks more of the third eye. It's a higher vibration. That's an easy one to do as well. So I want to thank you today for letting me that time to tell you my passion and what I do. I left some pamphlets and some business cards if you want to get to know more. I really appreciate being in front of you. And now I'm going to introduce Alex Hamilton. So Alex is a chef extraordinaire here that has been working at the Light Cellar and making his magic. He loves making all kinds of different potion and motion, working with all kinds of different foods. He loves our food system. So he's really passionate about more than ever, like, oh, what happened to our food system and just like how to get it back and get back into our own self. He runs a catering business with his beautiful wife as well. They just work amazing together. He has incorporated many cuisine in his repertoire, and he's entrusted in rejuvenation, agriculture. Okay, I got a hard time with this word. Sovereignty, community, and incorporate food in the local market and landscape community. So please welcome Alex. Sorry, Alex. I'm a little bit late.
Thank you. Obesity, chronic illness, cancers of all sorts, myriad stomach problems. You know, this is something that we're dealing with now. Does anyone know anybody that has a chronic illness? And if you don't, you know me, so you know somebody. I've suffered with chronic illness probably my whole life. And I didn't really connect food and chronic illness together for a very long time. I started in the restaurant industry at 15 years old. And at that time, I didn't know anything about food. I knew that it was microwavable, Kraft made most of the food, you got it from Costco, and you wrapped it in aluminum foil. You know, that was about the extent of it. But very, very soon into working in a restaurant, I found out about the wide variety of food. You know, I thought that I didn't like asparagus. I thought I didn't like steak. You know, steak night for me was chewing on medium rare blade steak until I could throw it to the dog, you know, like that. And so when the chef came to me and said, "Would you like to have staff meal?" And I was like, "Oh, what do you got? You know, you got grilled cheese." And I wasn't a very eclectic eater at that time. But he said, "Oh, we have steak," and I was transported back to my jaw. I don't want the workout, but I ate it, and it was amazing. It was actually transformative. I didn't know that food had that capacity, and I fell in love. I'd always been curious in nature. And this talk in the next dozen or so minutes, we're gonna put on our tinfoil hat. I actually put tinfoil hats under all of your seats if you don't have one already. Okay. I'm a product of the X-Files and Rage Against the Machine, and so my distrust for the government has always been very, very broad, and founded now that I've explored food and the systems that it's in. Farmers, we interact with farmers the most out of any profession every day. And very, very often they get put to the side for politicians, celebrities, and sports, you know, and for not good reason either. You know, without farmers, we're doomed. And I'm here to just to discuss, like, how do we get into this mess? You know, this is like a train wreck, like a type B cluster, or a cluster B personality disorder is our food system. You know, narcissistic, very, very taking, gaslighting. You know, I didn't know that, you know, through a series of decisions for myself and, you know, my family. Like I love my mom. She did the best, but, you know, we didn't know a lot about the food that we were putting into our bodies and how deleterious that could be onto our systems. Before I had type 1 diabetes, I had colitis. And I don't know if anybody knows what colitis is, but I'm not going to get into the details. You know, this is a family-friendly event. So, but I did travel to Korea with a severe colitis flare-up. And, you know, because I was always under the mind of I'll just get through, you know. And so when I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, the nurse, you know, she smiled at my Sally. You know, I was just like, oh, you know, like, this is a life or death thing. Like, I'll change my food habits really easily. And she's like, oh, you know, that's it. And so we're going to rewind it back a little bit. You know, I'm jumping over the plate, all over the place a little bit. You know, we live in a modern food dystopia, but just underneath is a burgeoning, beautiful food system that just is just out of reach for a lot of people, because this is all on purpose. You know, titanium dioxide, nitrates, red food dye number 40, yellow food dye 32, PCP. That's a drug, but, you know, citric acid. You know, natural flavors. All of these are ubiquitous on a lot, even organic brands. But a lot of people don't realize that these are actually made with molds, bacterias, and petrochemicals. And it's like, how did we get here? You know, like how did it become that? You know, I'm eating 8 things of grains a day. You know, like I should be losing weight. You know, the food pyramid told me that. And little do we know that the food pyramid was bought. Well, actually, I'm kind of speaking to the choir here, but a lot of people don't realize how pernicious this can be. You know, the allopathic medicine model. You know, like that. There's going to be a name that I say, and you know, I thought it was just like, oh, this is cool. You know, it means rich. You know, I grew up in '90s hip hop, and, you know, Rockefeller meant, you know, oh, you're rich, you're powerful, you're exact, you know, and it's like, oh, I didn't know you're the reason for the ever crumbling society and sovereignty that we face here as a society. But if you can trace back any little thing to it. I mean, when I was listening to all the talks yesterday, all the talks today, I was like, Rockefeller had a hand in that, you know, like, and the receipts are there, you know, even with sound. Like, I'm here to talk about food, but if you look up 440 hertz versus 432 hertz, you'll see that Rockefeller Foundation actually did that. And it was, one's healing, one isn't. And so allopathic medicine, another one, you can't patent nature. So we're going to take petrochemicals, we're going to wash plants with it, and then we're going to patent it. If anybody has seen any of pop culture and knows the process just by pop culture of how cocaine is made, that's the petrochemical process of how all pharmaceuticals are made. They're washed with a petroleum substrate, and then the precipitate is gathered, pressed into a pill, and then we digest it. I don't know if if you're like me, but I don't really want to eat petrochemicals. You know, I think it's for my car, not for me. And raw milk, you know, that was one where I was like, oh, wow. You know, like that's a little one. You know, what would people rather be caught with today? A bag of fentanyl or raw milk? But like honestly, you know, like and if you were to pose that question in any society other than the West, people would be like, well, what do you mean? You know, like just milk, you know, because raw milk, just like organic, is a term that's used because the other side of that is the controlled monocropping, you know, food additive laden food system that we interact with, you know. And so I found out Rockefeller, you know. So we have a little inside joke here at the Light Cellar that is almost like a swear jar, where every time that Alex mentions the Rockefellers, we're going to put a little dollar in there. And by the end, okay, we're going to actually have an imaginary one here. And then by the end, I think we'll all be able to buy you some raw milk. Under the radar, though. A lot of this happened through lobbying and education. You know, like one of the greatest things that I heard, and it just made so much sense, was Rockefeller had a letter that was written to him, and it was said to him that the most important resource he can have. This was after he had a monopoly on oil with Standard Oil, and that was broken up. He owned all the subsidiary companies and all that, but we won't get into that. But there was a letter given to him, and it was like, the greatest resource you can hold is the narrative. And so right after that, he went to Harvard University, and he put funding into Harvard, Yale, all of the most prestigious ones, you know, and he put it there. So then all of the scientists were, oh, well, I guess raw milk isn't good for you, you know, and I guess petrochemicals are really good for you. I guess injecting neurotoxin is a good thing, you know, and so here we stand today. And we have a slew of misinformation and a slew of just disconnection from our ancestors. But for the mustache twirling supervillain that is Rockefeller, we have a superhero. His name is Weston A. Price. And if you don't know who he is a dentist who lost his son to a root canal that he performed. And I mean, that would have been like a knife in the heart. But he didn't give up. You know, he wanted to know, why are teeth so bad? And teeth, which I didn't know, I have a lot of missing teeth, are the gateway to our health. And it says everything about our health. And so he went around the world to indigenous places, the indigenous tribes, and he saw that there was something in common. And it was that they were eating naturally made foods. There wasn't red dye 40, there wasn't any of that stuff. It was food the way it was meant to be eaten. And one of the greatest things that he had found is that there's four kingdoms or four areas that we get food from, and if we keep those in balance, we will thrive, and our health is dependent upon it. That is plants, animals, fungi, and bacteria. And if we can keep that together without I didn't see here petrochemicals or man-made artificial flavors in there, you know. And so if we keep that in mind, we can really, really reclaim our sovereignty. I mean, the convenience and dependence is the currency of is the currency of corporations. We've all been a part of it, you know, and I have too. You know, I don't feel like making food, so I go get a burger or whatever, and that is where my talk is going to go. Is that we need to get more comfortable with being uncomfortable, with being inconvenienced. You know, we need to start growing things, you know, cooking things. There's a lot of things that we can do, just small things, small acts that will really, really help readjust our relationship with this food system. One of the best things that you can do is go meet a farmer. Has anyone been on a farm before? Has anyone worked on a farm? You know, it's a big thing. I recently took up hunting, and we actually got a deer, and we were about 10 kilometers from the truck. And so we have a 200, 300 pound corpse right here. And it's like, okay, we got to bring this to the truck. Well, the only thing that we could do is put it on our shoulders and take it out. We got it to the truck, and we were frantically calling butchers as we got there, because the prospect of not having a butcher is, well, we had to hang it, we had to butcher it, because it was a pretty warm day out, and so the meat was going to spoil if we didn't, and so couldn't find a butcher. So what we had to do is we had to clamp down. I had to come to work actually the next day, and we had to, we were up all night, and it was packing, and by the end I was just like, wow, I am very, like, I am so grateful for farmers and butchers, but really I had to do that to have an appreciation for it. We can start eating a little bit more locally. We can have potlucks where we make something that we really want. If I want to eat chips, maybe I make the chips first, and see how that goes. Macaroni and cheese is a perfect example. Like I always love that craft dinner. That was my dinner for the longest time. I felt very independent when I was like 12 years old, and I like made a box of craft dinner, and I put margarine in it, and so. But now I really want to do that, because I do think that eating is an agricultural act. It is the end of this a beautiful process of synergistic relationship with the earth. And most times, I did forget to mention that like through Rockefeller's lobbying and all that, he actually took over a lot of the farming in North America, and so now we see a lot of the proliferation of monocropping. And also abroad, if anybody remembers the Indian farmers protests, that was actually because they were being forced through corporate coercion and bureaucracy. They were being forced to subside with their staple crops that they've been growing for generations and grow corn, wheat, and rice. And that's going on all over the world. Actually, Mexico had just fought with these NGOs and all that to keep heirloom corn on there. And so, farmers it is difficult to start a farm that is regenerative and all that. There are a lot of blocks in there because the corporate malfeasance and the fascia, that is lying. The term fascism, everybody knows that's corporate and government getting together. That's been ubiquitous with our society forever. But we've been told the fairy tale of, oh, we're a democracy, and don't get me started on that. Yeah, that's another class. But the sad truth is that there's a lot of farmers that are being forced by financial reasons or zoning or whatever. They have to grow wheat, genetically modified wheat with Terminator crop seeds, canola, or mustard. And all of those, like on their own, whatever. But under these models, they are forced into it, and more that they're being extracted. So the best thing that I think we can do is just support these regenerative farms, and they're popping up everywhere because this is the way that we go. They're amazing. I mean, we have many just dotted out just outside of Calgary, just outside of Edmonton, just outside of Red Deer. I think that starting on the right path just takes a single growing something. Just growing a herb and putting that in your pasta, and that is the beauty that we can have with this food system. But really, and it's been said before, is learn to read labels, learn to understand that like this hasn't happened by accident, but we can get out of it on purpose. So thank you for your time. Okay. Have you ever questioned the dependability of modern food, either in quality or in supply? Are you suspicious about what is not only at the root, but also the treatment for chronic disease in our community? Perhaps you have a general feeling that just maybe there might be something off with the way our industrialized society exists on this planet, and how it leaves individuals like you and I feeling like there must be another way. If so, then our next speaker, Malcolm Saunders, has some insight for you. You are about to learn another way. Another way to source your basic necessities of life, like food and medicine, that will create and nourish true health, freedom, and connection in your life. For more than 20 years, as owner and creative visionary of Light Cellar and founder of the Herbalist.ca, Malcolm's mission has been to help people just like you find and learn how to craft your own food and medicine. Please help me welcome Malcolm Saunders.
What if I were to tell you that there's a place you could go to get free food? And not just any food, but quality food, real food, nourishing food, the likes of which the average grocery store does not even sell. The quality of which would be quite a bit to invest on if you could even get your hands on it. Not just food, but medicine too. Natural medicines. And in this place, just by simply being there, it'll regulate your nervous system. You'll feel calmer. Your blood pressure will drop. Would that interest you? Well, it's the summer of 2007, and a young Denis Manzer is pursuing a degree in political science. He's the head of the Veggie Club. University of Calgary, helping grow the student garden. And all summer long, he's been doing battle with the weeds, fighting off the mice and other creatures, trying to eat his plants. He's been toiling, watering every single day, and it's harvest time. His lettuces are about this big. Seeing a look of defeat and disappointment on his face, friend says, "Hey, let's go foraging." And only about 90 minutes later, he comes out of the forest with 2 shopping bags completely full to the brim with one of the most nutritious greens on earth, nettles. Nettles are incredible. Arguably, again, one of the most nutritious greens on earth, rivals any other thing. In fact, I brought a little reference here. What's our modern day oracle? Our little pocket gods, AI. According to ChatGTP, nettles, as a vegetable, have 29 times more calcium than spinach, 9 times more than iron, 8 times higher in magnesium, 3 times higher in potassium, and almost double, the potassium content. That's in there twice. 7 times higher in vitamin C than oranges, and are considered to have at least 3 times more nutrients in general than your average grocery store item. So when might be a good time to go forage some nettles? Not only that, considered one of the great herbs, an antihistamine for allergies, a great blood purifier, a great blood builder. It's considered strengthening and supportive to the digestive system, the diuretic system, the urinary system, the glandular system. What an incredible herb. For some, nettles is their favorite herb. Do you know what my favorite herb is? I'm always pining for it. That's right. That tall and mighty conifer that dots this landscape, the tree of life. Over the last few years, pine became a bit of a gateway herb for many. don't know if you heard during the pandemic, pine was getting discovered as a very potent antiviral. Yes, it rivals, well, I would say it rivals, even the top selling pharmaceutical, Tamiflu, of which its active ingredient is called shikimic acid. Did you know that shikimic acid for Tamiflu used to be sourced from star anise? And then was it the Rockefellers, Alex, that changed that? Now it's synthetically derived. But you can also find shikimic acid in pine and many of the other conifers. Inhibits respiratory viruses. It's antiviral. We would get calls at the shop. Do you guys sell pine needle tea? Denny would answer, he's like, have you looked outside? I bet you, if you walk out your door, you've either got a spruce or a pine in your front yard or your neighbor does. And it's high in vitamin C, it's fresh, and it's free. Not only that, antiviral, antimicrobial, it is a cardiotonic, respiratory tonic. It is an androgen. It is anabolic. One of the issues that we face in our society today is low testosterone. Wouldn't you agree? You heard these stats that, when men would naturally decrease in testosterone later in life, andropause, this is showing up earlier and earlier because of foods, because of xenoestrogens, all kinds of factors. And we've got a society that's very weak, that lacks drive, that lacks willpower. And did you know pine, in particular the pollen, contains the highest amount of bioidentical testosterone of anything on the planet? I had a friend who was in his 40s, kind of that, arc of life, just noticing things just weren't the same. Went and got tested. Sure enough, his testosterone was low. Heard about pine pollen. Got onto it, went and harvested it himself, started taking it, and within 2 weeks, went back to his doctor, had doubled his testosterone. Yes, but you know what the real medicine of pine is? Especially during the pandemic. Let me share a quote here from the Boreal Herbal. Beverly Gray, what an amazing herbalist. She quotes the Daniel Tiegner, who says that lodgepole pine is nourishing, expanding, and invites us to rediscover our center and to remain firmly rooted in the midst of external dramas. Any external dramas going on in the last few years? He adds, being centered, we face life with equanimity and calmness. We are able to stand tall and to speak our truth. This is the power of pine. Speaking of pines, I wish you would have been there with myself, my wife, our young daughter. She was about 8 at the time. She brought a friend along on the camping trip. And we were in a burnt pine forest. Not a single living tree around, everything completely charred. But we were so excited because we were finding morels, burn morels. The first year after a forest fire, it is the most incredible, amazing, magical experience because they are everywhere. They're just popping up in profusion, and it's like Easter egg hunting for adults. Here's another one, here's another one. Just following these threads of mycelium to one mushroom after another, filling our baskets, which filled buckets. I think we probably got over 100 pounds. The abundance was absolutely unbelievable. You know what was more nourishing? It was the connection, the memories we made, the experience we had, this harvest, this abundance. And I have an unwritten rule about morel harvesting. I've had a few moments like that in my life. Sometimes, some years, it's just I find a couple. But every spring, when the Saskatoon blooms, you'll find these shrooms. I'm out there looking. I only get 2 or 3. Sometimes I get 200 or 300. But I always share. I always gift morels to pass on that taste of the wild, that gift from the earth. And I have some morels that I want to gift to you tonight. So, to deepen our connection between you and I, to deepen your connection with the forest, to taste something that of the forest, you may grab a bag of morels and take home and enjoy. Now, if you're like me and you were raised in suburban Calgary, eating a standard American diet, well, I don't know anything about this foraging and wild food stuff, it's never too late. Literally, just getting on your first plant walk shows you the path. I love seeing the expressions of total amazement, like just eyes wide open and excitement when people learn like what is literally growing all around us. I like to remind folks, there was a time everywhere in the world where there were no grocery stores, there were no pharmacies, and yet people knew. You can know. Coming on a second plant walk or a third plant walk just deepens that path, that connection, that understanding, that knowing for yourself. Books are great. Mentors are great. Joining the Herbalist, where you can read, watch, and learn from myself personally, showing you all the plants and fungi of the area. For greater health, freedom, and connection, go forth and forage. All right. So afterwards, please take some morels. And yeah, you're so welcome. For sure. Yeah. And yes, they are dirty. They were picked out of a burnt forest off the forest floor. And if you see white, you're like, oh, it must be moldy. No, those are just spores. Those are all good. I can share with you recipes as well if you like to, if you want to know how to use them. So yeah, amazing.
Send it with the recording.
Okay, I'll send it with the recording. Yeah, great idea. Okay, are you ready? Our final speaker.
Yeah!
Your next speaker is deeply inspired by the foods and practices that have supported health and longevity in traditional cultures for generations. She is the founder of Apotheke, an artisan herb company rooted in the intention of preserving and sharing herbal culinary traditions. Tonight, she's here to offer a new definition of health and a refreshing approach to wellness, one that celebrates real nourishment and a connection to joy, nature, and the innate wisdom of our bodies. Please welcome Vivian Safaris.
Oops, wrong way. Okay. Your body, each of your bodies, is a miracle. You are truly miraculous, really. The next time you find yourself wanting to criticize your body, think about all the thousands of things that go right every single moment of your entire life just to keep you alive. Your body takes care of all those details, and you don't even have to think about it. So in that context, how much do the details of its shape actually matter? Think of what it's taking care of for you every moment of your life. Regardless of your age, it's time for all of us to shift our measure of what real health is, away from how you look towards how you are feeling. So today I'm promising a joyful path to vibrant health. But what is vibrant health? What does that even mean? I'll tell you what it's not. It's not being in your 40s and beyond and trying to look like you are 20, not or 30, but 20. It's not battling your biology. It's not deprivation, guilt, restriction, obsession over calorie counting and food math and protein grams. And it's certainly not feeling stressed, exhausted, depleted, inadequate, and thinking that if you just continue to diet and exercise your way through it, you'll get out of it. It's not any of those things. And by the way, just to take it off the table, it has nothing to do with being thin or skinny. That has nothing to do with real health. So what is vibrant health? Vibrant health is feeling energized, activated, inspired to create a life that you love. It's having the energy to do the things you want in life, to create meaningful relationships, to nurture meaningful relationships, to pursue work that is in alignment with your values, to support the people that you love, just to be present in your life, to bring whatever magic each of you has inside of you into fruition in this world. That is what vibrant health is. It's also feeling safe in your body, comfortable in your skin. It's knowing that you can trust your body's intuition, embracing your biology rather than battling it. Doesn't that feel so much better? It's like a big exhale. There are 3 small shifts that will get you there. And none of these shifts is another program, diet or exercise trend, coach, anything like that. So the first step on the path to vibrant health is real nourishment. At this point in your life, and really regardless of what point you are in your life, you can no longer get by on chasing trends and throwing extremes at your body. And for those of you in the room that are younger, you may think you're getting by, but it will catch up to you. Real nourishment has to be the foundation to everything. And you can absolutely trust your body to guide you to optimal health. Does that sound too good to be true? It kind of is. There's a caveat. I didn't finish the sentence. You can absolutely guide your body or trust your body to guide you to optimal health if you are giving it inputs that it understands. So we are all natural beings with rhythms and cycles that mirror the natural world around us. And our bodies were designed thousands of years ago when we had no choice but to completely interact and coexist with nature. This is what our biology still understands. So when we eat real food, our bodies know what to do with it. We're giving it inputs, it understands, so it cooperates. Remember, your body is rooting for your survival. Its sole purpose, day in and day out, is to keep you alive. It may not feel like it, but it is your biggest fan and your biggest cheerleader. It is not working against you. If it feels like it's working against you, it may just be confused. So communicating in the same language is the first reason why real nourishment and real food is key. The second is just super boring. It's that real food is what your body actually needs. That's just it. There's no getting around it. We have ancient bodies that happen to be living modern lives. So we haven't caught up with what science has created. And science is good, and it will get better, but it will never, ever, ever replicate what nature provides. So we will always thrive on what is real. No getting around it. So what is real food? There's lots of definitions. I would say food that is prepared by you or someone you know, using whole, unprocessed, real, natural ingredients. Food that your ancestors would recognize as food. Does that mean you have to prepare every single meal you eat for the rest of your life? Are we all committing to that here tonight? No, of course not. It's totally unrealistic. But there really is no getting around the fact that you have to stay connected to the preparation of your food, especially if you are just starting on this journey and are still trying to establish or reestablish a trust and a baseline with your body. So 3 actionable steps to get you there. Number 1, you can simplify your definition of what a meal is, because we can all just do things. We can just make things work for our lives the way we want to. So for me, that means like a meal, a dinner can be a really good piece of sourdough and some good cheese and some fruit, and I can call that a meal even though it's not a traditional dinner. In order to do that, you need step 2, you need to get prepared and organized and bring real ingredients into your home. If budget is an issue or time is an issue, think ahead. Plan for things, to have things in your home that are delicious and nourishing and convenient that you actually like. And start to think about your food in terms of the price per nutrient over the price per unit. We think processed food is cheaper and that's why we buy it. It's absolutely not cheaper, not only from a dollar perspective, but also it'll cost you in other ways. The third step, which is probably your most important, is to shift your perspective on preparing food. You get to prepare your meals rather than you have to prepare your meals. It's not a chore that can be outsourced. Preparing our meals is a sacred ritual. Grocery shopping, stick with me, is magic. It's like alchemy. It's going around and gathering ingredients and raw materials that are actually the building blocks for your cells and your body. You are building yourself from the inside out. This is not a chore. This is sacred. It's a privilege. So we need to start elevating our food preparation and our meals to that elevated, sacred ritual of self-care for us and for our families. So with nourishment as the foundation, the next essential piece to vibrant health is joy. The messaging that we have all been sold by diet culture, eat to live, don't live to eat. Does that sound familiar? Don't eat emotionally. Food is not love. I can't tell you how much I hate that. It's just like, it's so awful. I don't know who needs to hear this, but eating is a biological need that we all share. So feeling guilty about being hungry is as ridiculous as feeling guilty about needing to use a bathroom. They're biological needs. So we need to shift our perspective on that. In the first moment of our lives, we establish a sense of safety in the world through both nourishment and love simultaneously. And they can never be separated. Food is love. Food is joy. Food is connection. And joy is essential to vibrant health. We get these one bodies to live this one life. What is the point of all the work in taking care of these bodies if we are not enjoying our lives? There's no point to it. But here's where food and joy get really interesting. Studies have shown that the way you feel about the meal that you're eating and the way you feel as you're eating it is going to affect the uptake of nutrients that you get from that meal. Meaning that there is an alchemy between the food itself and how your body receives it. It's not just calories in and calories out. That does not exist. So if you make everything from selecting your ingredients to preparing your food to who you're eating with and where you're eating it in the best way that you can, it's not going to be perfect. If you can elevate all of that to a sacred ritual, it offers unlimited opportunity for joy. And you can tap into that in really little ways every single day. The third piece on the path to vibrant health is beauty, which is really just a mindfulness practice. It's noticing the beauty around you. When you are seeking beauty in your life in small ways every single day, it not only changes how you eat, it changes how you feel, of course. It changes how you move. It changes how you live. It changes how you relate to people around you. And I just think that collectively as human beings, we're really hungry for beauty right now. Our eyes are like craving beautiful things. Beauty fills you up so that you're no longer craving those cheap dopamine fixes, junk food, mindless scrolling, filling your home with junk that you don't need. You don't have to raise your hand, but answer privately in your head. Who has found themselves at a Winners or a HomeSense or some like big box store, mindlessly buying something you absolutely don't need to feed something inside of you that you don't even know is missing. And entire industries are created on satisfying those cheap dopamine cravings for us in a way that makes it feel okay. So when you surround yourself with beauty in your food and in your environment, your choices naturally become more nourishing. Think about food. Real food is beautiful. Natural food is beautiful. Seasonal food is beautiful. Traditional foods are beautiful. Food nourishes you and in more ways than just nutrients. It satisfies your senses, all your senses. And when you're actively shining your awareness of the beauty of the food that you are consuming, you eat more mindfully. Processed food does not satisfy the senses in the same way. It's dead energy. It's more numbing than it is nourishing. So how many times have you eaten something that's more numbing than nourishing? And then there's your environment, which includes how you present yourself to the world, how you adorn yourself. Your body mirrors your surroundings, and you will make better food choices in a tidy space, in fresh air, in natural light, in an environment that is aesthetically pleasing to you personally, because your nervous system can regulate in an environment like that. In the same vein, what you wear matters. What you put on that skin of that one body that you get for this one life, touching your skin, is important. Real, natural fabrics are beautiful. And the frequency that they resonate at as they touch your skin is higher. You don't need perfection. I'm not saying this to make you start thinking about all the things that you're not doing. All you need is a little bit of intention. So if you just start to intentionally create an environment that feels good to be in, you'll naturally start making more intentional and more elevated choices. And you'll start to crave experiences that start to support your highest vibration. Seeking beauty allows you to tap into mindfulness, to tap into gratitude, and to tap into fulfillment. So this is just a small introduction to how real nourishment, joy, and beauty can lead you to vibrant health. And there is no shortcut. There is no topical treatment. There is no procedure. There is no amount of money that you can throw at your body to replicate that. It is an energy that comes from within you when you're truly nourished. It's a vitality in your tissues. It cannot be replicated. The fact that this can be the path to real health makes me even more grateful and even more in awe of the miracle of each of our bodies. Isn't that amazing? Nourishment on every level, joy and beauty is everywhere around you. It is actually each of your natural state. You just have to open your eyes to it. So I'll leave you tonight with just one little simple invitation just to think about how can I invite a little bit more real nourishment, joy, and beauty, or just become a little bit more aware of it into my life. Thank you.
All right. Did you enjoy this evening? Yeah. Wow. You learned lots? Yeah. I'd love to hear maybe just some popcorn. I know we didn't do this last night, but what were some kind of key takeaways, even just like words or phrases, names, Rockefeller? Yeah. Food is beautiful. Well, that's what I was left with, for sure.
It was all inspiring.
All inspiring.
It was all kind of like a spectrum of
Yeah, nice little spectrum.
bits of information.
Cool.
I'm thinking like how available this life actually is for us, especially when you're talking about it's free, it's outside, and I guess, yeah, just it's actually so available. We can, it's so complex about
Cool. Yeah. Summarize those for those online. It's all available. Like it's free. This life, this lifestyle. It's a shift in perspective, and yeah, wonderful. Intuition. Yeah, that's a nice keyword. Sound is medicine. Yeah, sound is the medicine. Yeah, cool. Okay, what? Say it again.
And connection.
Connection.
Each of the speakers had a different focus, but together, all of it connected.
Right, all the
So
topics
it's
connected.
beneficial, as a whole. I
Yeah.
also felt connected to some of my ancestral kind of traditions and
Right.
memories when I was a child with my grandparents' farm and stuff like that. So.
Totally. Yeah, there was a lot that was very reflective of that. Yeah, ancestral past and traditions. So good. Well, I would say mission accomplished. Yay. Right on. Thanks again to all our speakers.
So who of the speaker group actually did the 5 to 7 days every single day? Well, you guys did? Okay, well, I'm proposing, or is this working? I'm proposing or suggesting that all of the speakers who didn't do that, I fell behind, that we all make Malcolm and his family dinner.
Oh.
Anyone else with me? Okay, Alex is with me, I'm with me, Brittany has to do it with me, and then you guys can just come and enjoy. Maybe we'll do like a big dinner together, because part of the challenge was that if we lost the challenge, we had to buy whoever, the whole group dinner. And I think that sort of sifted off, but I just thought it'd be beautiful if we could forge some things and make you guys dinner.
Right. Well, that sounds good to me.
Do you accept? Yeah. Okay, I just volunteered Alex and Brittany with me, so it's really great. Okay, thank you, Malcolm. Seriously.
Cool. No, you're so welcome. All right. Yeah, so as we kind of break for this evening, feel free to connect with those that you heard speak, either tonight or last night, and just give them some love and some feedback and all that. And we have so many great events coming up throughout the month of June and into the summer. So I invite you to those, including a talk on art and mycology and cosmology tomorrow night with Danielle Kainers, and lots of an open house and night cellars with wonderful music and foraging. Yeah, cool. All right. Well, thanks again, and thanks for everybody that tuned in online. Really appreciate you guys coming and being here. So have a wonderful evening. Yeah. Come grab your morels.
Oh, that's great.